I think in your next life, when you're choosing your career choices and paths, look into teaching, education, impacting knowledge. You've explained, I'm just imagining there's a layman person listening, and I'll be like, yeah, wait, pause, take notes, and then come back and I'll be like, it's very easy. Yes. It's very easy to understand you.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Now, what exactly is insulin resistance? And number two, you mentioned something called DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. I may understand that, but our listeners may not understand what exactly that is. And when you're taking care of these clients from type 1 to type 5, do they all undergo the same treatment? Is it different? How do you go about it?
Okay. For the sake of the layman, let's say, or the person who is not very used to the medical terms. So remember, we talked about type 1 being the type of diabetes where there is not enough insulin in the body. And insulin, it's actually not being produced. Let's just put it that way. It's minimal to zero insulin in the body. Insulin is the substance that gets the sugar from outside your body into the cell. We always talk about eat for energy, eat so that you get energy. Where does the energy come from? It comes from food. How is it broken down? So when you take your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your veggies, a lot of your veggies is probably minerals or amino acids and stuff. But a lot of your carbs will go down and be broken into sugars. So carbohydrates are just complex sugars. They're all broken down until they get to the final product, which is glucose. And then protein is basically going to be building block for your muscles a lot of the time, but it's not used for energy as much as carbohydrates are used. Fat is also used for energy, but the body prefers to use carbohydrates because it's a faster way of and more efficient way of getting the energy than breaking down fat. So if the body is given a choice, it can break down carbohydrates, it can break down fats, it can break down protein into energy, but it goes at, okay, which one will take the least effort? The one that takes least carbs, then fat, then protein. So that means whenever you take your carbs, then that's the first thing that your body will go for as fuel. Now, it will be broken down into glucose. And then that glucose, now, the insulin, its work is to get that glucose from outside of the cell and then goes into the cell so that it can be used for energy. But when you have too much of the glucose, it stays around and then it's like, okay, I have nothing else to do. So it's converted into fat or extra. So basically, the body's like, hey, what I need save, I'll use it for fuel for later. So think of fat as your stored fuel. That's why it's the second, because it's the stored fuel that's just waiting for when supplies are low, then the body can switch to fat for energy. Insulin is therefore very important for two things. It will ensure that you have enough energy in your body. And so the way the body is that it really wants your sugar level, because your sugar is what will give you energy, to be in a certain level. We call that homeostasis, where the body just wants things to be between a certain range. That's why your temperature is not 20 something. You want your temperature 36.6 to 37.2. And that's where homeostasis takes place, because the body is the way God made us, if you believe in God, is that things are in a precise, orderly manner. So
Yes.
Ideally, the body wants your sugars to be between, when you wake up, it should be around 4 to 5. And then when you're doing your normal activities, it shouldn't go above 10 for most people.
Yes.
But then when you have diabetes, the sugars are high. So now the question is, why are they high? That's why now the type of diabetes comes in, because we are trying to figure out, why is this sugar high? It should not be high. So in type 1, the problem is the insulin is not there to get that sugar from outside and take it into the cell. So that's why when you prick your nini, or if you have a CGM, whichever way you're testing your sugar, that's why your sugar is high, because it's just not entering the cell properly. There's no insulin to drive it to the cell. And that is called type 1 diabetes. And a lot of people with type 1 diabetes lose weight. One of their main concerns is weight loss. Why? Because the body can no longer use the carbs. Remember, we said insulin uses the carbs quickly. So it has to
Yes.
change to another way of getting energy. So it goes to fats. So what happens is the body starts using the fat, and then somebody keeps on getting thinner and thinner and thinner. Then it reaches a point, it even starts using the protein because that's a machine work. Why am I
Mm-hmm.
because I need energy to survive. All my organs want something. Now,
Yeah.
insulin imekata. So
Yes.
these people with type 1 end up losing a lot of weight. They get, and the problem is that the byproducts of the breakdown of the fats and the protein leads to very dangerous toxins called ketones. Ketone bodies are not supposed to be in the system, but when you have breakdown of fats and protein like that, your ketone bodies accumulate in the system, and the body doesn't like ketone bodies. Ketone bodies are just, think of them as little, little byproducts, unwanted byproducts. Think of them that way. So they're just
Yes.
unwanted byproducts, and they just start accumulating in the body, and the body it's a toxin to the body. So now when
Yeah.
you get KA, that is now diabetic ketoacidosis, which means the ketone bodies have become so many until they have led to acidity in the body. So you have an acidotic body, a lot of acidity in the body, and it's not the acid in the stomach acid, it's acid in, so there's a lot of acid in your blood, and that acid needs to come out from somewhere. So you start breathing heavy, trying to clear it out from your lungs, because sometimes that helps. But usually the ketone bodies keep on accumulating, and it's something that can make somebody die because it lowers your body pH. If you remember your acid balance, whenever you have too much acid bodies, your pH goes down. And so when the body gets too much acidity, you will die unless you get insulin. So these people, unless they get insulin, they will die, period. For them, insulin is a lifesaver. It's not a choice. And that is why I'm a big advocate for type 1 patients getting insulin pumps, because it is not a choice for them. There's nothing lifestyle is going to do. There's nothing like, for them, it is their pancreas is dead. And without their pancreas, they're not going to survive. It's a life or death
Yeah.
situation, type 1s.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's move to type 2s. Type 2s
Yes.
are people who they've been taking sugar, honey. They've really been taking sugar, but not all of
Yeah.
them. Some of them don't necessarily take lots of sugar. It could just be carbs in general, complex carbs,
Yeah.
nduma, ngwashe. And by the way, when we are talking about carbs, we are talking about any carbs. Some of them are processed, some of them are unprocessed. So anything that's carbohydrate, it could be honey, it could be sugar itself, it could be donuts, it could be ngwashe, it could be, because some people have this conception that if you eat healthy food, so they say, me, I eat a lot of ngwashe, I eat a lot of nduma, I don't even know why I got diabetes. But my friend, nduma and ngwashe are carbs. So basically what happens is this: somebody has insulin resistance either because they have taken a lot of carbs and calories, and then now they became bigger and started gaining weight. And the reason they gain weight is because, remember, we said insulin's work is to give you energy and to keep your sugar between that level where the body wants, like between 5 and 8 or whatever. But then it becomes a point you've eaten like a whole, like you've eaten more than what your body needs. So what
Yes.
happens is the body decides, let me store this energy as fuel for next time. Inaweka fat. Then lunch ya kesho tena unakula more than you need. Inaweka fat ingine. You continue doing that cumulatively, you keep on gaining weight slowly by slowly by
Yes.
slowly by
Yes.
slowly.
Yes.
Then now the problem is that the more weight you gain, the more insulin resistance. So the thing is, the more fat you have, the more the insulin doesn't work as well as it should. So now you now need much more insulin to make your sugar go down. So let's say when you are 50 kgs, okay, let's not use 50. Let's say when you are 60 kgs, you needed 2 units of insulin from your pancreas to make your sugar go down to 5. Then when you add 5 kgs, now you need 3 units of insulin from your pancreas. Then when you're 80 kgs, now you need 50 units. And it's the same pancreas still working. So what happens? The pancreas is trying, it's working and working, it's trying its best to keep up. because it needs so much insulin now to try and bring your sugar down. Then it reaches
Yes.
a point now it can't keep up. So what happens is you have a lot of insulin in the system. It's a lot,
Mhm.
but your sugar is just not going down. And now your sugar starts going up because the pancreas capability to keep up with your insulin demands is not enough.
Yes.
So in this case, it is the weight and the fat that has led to this. But now I want to talk about a special group, which is my group, the PCOS group.
Yeah.
PCOS means polycystic ovarian syndrome. A lot of people think that the problem is at the ovary, but I want to tell you the problem is insulin resistance. The insulin resistance is inherent. Like you're born with the insulin resistance, unfortunately. And there's nothing much you can do about it because it's just there. So what happens is people with PCOS are inherently insulin resistant. And so what happens is the mechanism of getting the follicle out of the ovary is tampered with because of the insulin resistance.
Mhm.
And then that leads to more and more hormonal issues because the problem, yes, is the insulin resistance, but it has led to an ovarian problem, which leads to a hormonal problem. And then the
Yeah.
cycle keeps on going and going because the more insulin resistance, the more insulin they have to produce, then the more fat they gain. And then it's just a cycle as well.
Mhm.
So insulin resistance is all about insulin not being able to work well. It is there. In fact, it is there in plenty. Ukifanya insulin levels, they are high. So they are there,
Yes.
but they're just not working the way they should. So either it's because the body is inherently resistant, like people who have PCOS, or people who are taking steroids, or because drugs can give you insulin resistance. So that's why we were discussing about these people taking steroids, and we're like, do they know what they're doing to their body? Because
Mhm.
you can actually take medication that give you diabetes. Some people get transplants and like kidney transplants, and then they have to go on this medicine to for immunosuppression, like tacrolimus.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
tacrolimus leads to diabetes through insulin resistance. So it's
Mhm.
not a calorie thing. Sometimes it's the medication. So somebody
Yes.
on steroids or on tacrolimus, somebody who has PCOS, who is just born with insulin resistance.
Mhm.
Sometimes it is related to pregnancy and gestational diabetes, as much as you might not like sometimes they put it in a class of its own, but it's inherently insulin resistance because of the hormones from the placenta. So the placenta inafanya tu insulin inakataa kufanya kazi. So now you
Mhm.
have to give more insulin so that it does its work, and then that leads to diabetes because of the insulin resistance. So there are many factors. I know we always think of type 2 diabetes as, oh, this one is fat, therefore has diabetes, but it's not always the case.
Yes.
You can be lean and be insulin resistant. You can be pregnant and lean and be insulin resistant. You can just be
Mhm.
on and they make you insulin resistant, and yet you've lived a very healthy life. So it can
Mhm.
happen in homes. Yeah. So now the treatment for that, remember we said treatment for type 1 is insulin because for
Insulin.
them, it's a matter of, it's just there's no insulin. In this case, you
Yes.
have a lot of insulin. So the problem is not the insulin. The problem is you need something that will help you become more sensitive to insulin. A lot of people, I must say, who have insulin resistance get onto insulin because they are we are trying to bring their sugar down. We need to
Mm.
go to the root of the insulin resistance and ask
Yeah.
ourselves, okay, if this person is on this medicine that is making them resistant, can we change? If this person has gained a lot of weight, can they lose the weight? Because that will help them become more sensitive to insulin rather than keep
Mm.
on adding madawa, lose the weight, become more insulin sensitive. Some people, like the people who have PCOS, it's just metformin. They just need an agent that will help insulin work better. And when they
Mhm.
get the metformin, the weight loss happens. Like in PCOS, that's why we give metformin because we are trying to make the body more sensitive to the insulin in the system. And
Mm.
it helps so many symptoms of PCOS just being on metformin. So personally, remember when I told you I finally accepted,
Okay.
is that I
Yes.
finally went on metformin. I had
Mm.
been, as much as I was, I am a preacher of, try and nini, but I had tried lifestyle for the longest. And
Yeah.
it a point where my sugars, initially it worked, but it
Mhm.
reached a point where my sugars started going high. And I accepted, I decided, you know what, it is what it is. I did not choose to get PCOS. I just have it and I accepted and I decided I'll start the metformin. And I lost 5 kgs just like that, just because I started
Mhm.
metformin. and my
Amazing.
blood cleared up, and like so many health benefits just from that one decision. So insulin resistance is a disease where we need to just figure out the root cause and try deal with the root cause. But if you
Mhm.
don't deal with the root cause, a lot of times you will find yourself ending up with needing insulin. But
Yeah.
that was not necessarily what should have happened, if you get what I mean.
Mhm.
Like, if we had
Yes.
noticed what to change earlier, we could change the trajectory of your disease just
Mhm.
by doing certain measures to try and redirect the course of your insulin resistance.
I think in your next life, when you're choosing your career choices and paths,
Uh-huh.
look into teaching, education, imparting knowledge. You explain. I'm just imagining there's a layman person listening, and
Mm.
I'd be like, yeah, wait, pause, take notes, and then come back and be like, but
What's your
it's very easy. Yes. It's very easy to understand.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Awesome. Now we move
I still
to
do a lot of
type
teaching though.
3.
I actually even have a
Mhm.
lecture. I'm doing a CME tomorrow, right here in Canada. Yeah. So
Nice.
I am a strong advocate in just, letting people will see the gift in you and
Yes.
put yourself out there. Don't underestimate the gifts that you have. And even if people, not everyone might like what it is that you do, keep doing it. If that's your vision and that's your purpose, imagine people will, you don't make yourself small because you're trying to kind of fit in. If you're good at something, do it, and God will
Yeah.
just reward you, and people around you will notice what is genuine and like just genuinely coming from you as a talent. So yeah, that's what I would tell anyone out there who is trying to
Yeah.
get their foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we are doing type 3, 4, 5. Mhm.
Yeah. So for type 3, a lot of times it just comes unawares. Remember, this is the one where it's pancreatitis, pancreatic cancer. It's something that's really beyond your control. There's very few people that I've met who ever said that, who had a warning for pancreatitis. I'm saying very few because some, especially alcohol induced, a lot
I
of
was
them
going
had
to
a
ask that.
warning. Because a lot of them, they had a warning kidogo, then they still went ahead and drank again and again. But I'm talking about just the pancreatitis that just comes. Whenever you meet somebody who has just pancreatitis out of the blue, and it can be very debilitating. Pancreatitis is a really, really bad and dangerous condition, and it can affect so many organs. It can cause ARDS, which is like lung failure. It can cause kidney failure. So it's a really tough disease to come out from. And then later on, because the pancreas is the one which is responsible for insulin production, but also for digestive enzyme production, people end up with a lot of digestive issues, and then they also might end up with diabetes. So this diabetes is now known as type 3C diabetes. Previously, we kind of used to lump it with type 1 in a way because they're not producing enough insulin. But now when somebody says type 3C, at least everybody will know, it's the pancreas. Okay, let's move on. So for these people, even just yesterday, I think I got a referral of somebody who has type 3C, and their doctor wants me to consider them for an insulin pump, which by the way, here is free. Aki, ndio maana nakwambia Aki, where you are born matters, Jackie. Imagine having insulin pumps for free. For free.
Yeah.
For free. Do you know how many people have insulin pumps in Kenya? Like less than 100.
Very few. Yeah.
So
Those are
few.
very few.
So few. I think even less than 50. In the whole of Kenya, a country of
Those
50.
are the well-to-do,
Well to do.
people
Because
at
kuweka
that.
pump ni 1 million. Kuweka 2. Then now the supplies, because you have to keep on adding insulin every 3 days. Then you have the tubing. Then you have the unini. It's like 50 Gs per month. Nobody's going to afford that. Like nobody,
No.
no average Kenyan can afford it. But yet so many need it. So anyway, yeah. The truth is, most of those people, it's just insulin that will work because it's kind of like a type 1. Because your issue is not resistance, it's just that you're not producing enough. So we can help a little bit with a few of the oral medications to just see if we can make someone more insulin sensitive. But at the end of the day, insulin is the best medication for them because they just need more insulin in their system. Then type 4, it depends. Like I told you, my grandfather, he's just on metformin and he's doing fine. So treat it as a type 2 pretty much, because some might need oral medication, some might just do well on lifestyle, and then some of them might need insulin. So it's out there. It can go either way. And then type 5, the malnutrition associated, a lot of them need insulin because the problem is the pancreas itself did not develop well because they had undernutrition in life. So a lot of them do better with insulin. And funny enough, they don't go into DKA because they have some insulin being produced. So they hardly go into DKA because there's just some amount of insulin there that's just enough to keep them out of acidosis, but their sugars are always high.